Hello, YouTube. This is James from Bandit Geek coming at you with a Yu-Gi-Oh card discussion. The card I will be discussing is Infinite Impermanence and discussing basically why it's expensive because this card is notoriously still expensive despite having multiple prints. So first we'll get into the card itself. It is a normal trap with the following effect. Target one face-up monster your opponent controls, negate its effect till the end of this turn. Then, if this card was set before activation and is on the field at resolution, for the rest of this turn, all other spell and trap effects in this column are negated. If you control no cards, you can activate this card from your hand. So it's quite literally a hand trap because you can use it straight from your hand, whereas a lot of other cards that are called hand traps are actually monster effects you can use in hand. This effect is very flexible, it's very useful, it's very versatile, and there's been so many games where I've seen this card basically cut turns short. Like the opponent will be trying to combo off, imperm will get dropped, and it really messes up their plays, and they have to finish with a very suboptimal board. I have also seen occasions where it's literally just ended the turn then and there. Another thing that is worth noting about this card is due to the fact that it targets the card at the gate. You can't chain block this card, which which is actually very good and very interesting. You'd be surprised how much that comes up because a lot of other effects can be chain blocked, but we'll not get too into that for this video. Now, the card itself was first released in Flames of Destruction as a secret rare, and I believe it was short printed as well. There was not very many of them around. I think even now, after several reprints, the original is still fetching a fair bit. It's still like 60, £70 online, something in that region, which can maybe accept, it was quite hard to obtain. It is very high rarity. But the bit that sort of grinds my gears about this card is despite the fact that it's had three reprints, even the cheapest copies are still over 20 quid. And I feel that is expensive for a card that has as many prints as this one does. So just gonna sort of get into reasons why it's so pricey. Obviously, one is the demand. This is a card I feel that if you wish to be competitive in Yu-Gi-Oh, or if you are considering playing competitively, this is a card you pretty much have to have a playset of, whether it be to side or whether it be to main deck. Now, there are some formats where this card is better than other formats. There are some formats where, as I say, you may actually consider even maining this card. Sometimes you'll side it, obviously, depending on what you're likely to come up against and player preference, stuff like that. Because it's very useful, very flexible, and it's quite obvious why people want it. Now, the rarity. Now, the original print was very high rarity and hard to get. The the first two reprints, the dual power dual overload ones, were actually those sets were actually flat rarity. Like every card in those sets was ultra. It's like the rarity didn't have much effect in terms of like value of these cards. It was more like how useful they were or if they were short printed in that. I'm not 100% sure if they were, but they did seem to be short printed. Like I didn't see many of them get pulled. I watched a lot of openings for them, and obviously know people who've opened them as well. And yeah, there was not many who pulled impermanence out of those two sets. Then there was the maximum gold reprint, which that was probably the set I saw it come out of the most. Although, of course, unless you're me, you can get a full box of maximum gold and still not pull this card. And then you have my friend Axel, who gets the exact same number and pulls a full playset because logic. But anyway, that aside, it just I do understand why Konami is doing what they're doing in the respect that it's a card people will want, so it makes sense to use it to sort of sell sets to make people want to buy particular sets. So I understand it from that perspective, and to meet demand because there's obviously high demand for it. The only problem is due to the fact that even the cheapest, most readily available copies of this card are over 20 quid a piece. It's still that's still a fair bit of money for a single card, and for a full playset, that's like 60 quid. And obviously, some people might be on a very, very tight budget and they may not necessarily be able to afford 60 quid just for a playset of cards they may not necessarily sort of use in their main deck. I mean, as I say, if they want to be competitive, you're probably always going to have to put plenty of money in anyway. Just sort of how competitive Yu-Gi-Oh is, but I do feel for people who maybe are on a tighter budget and maybe can't afford to just buy this card. I mean, it's no big deal to me personally because I have the money spare to actually buy these. That's what I did. I bought a playset just after maximum gold because they came down temporarily to about 15 quid a copy, which personally I think that's still a little high, but it is what it is. I thought they're probably not going to get cheaper than that, so I'll just get them now. And lo and behold, I was right. The As I say, I because it affects like people on a budget, makes it harder for them to get this card. It does affect their ability to play competitively because this card is so useful and so versatile, and it is one of those cards that you do need to really be competitive and play Yu-Gi-Oh at the highest level. If you can't afford this, you are inherently at potentially a significant disadvantage just purely on the basis that you don't have this card. And I do feel that is a little unfair. I mean, I understand some of the reasoning behind it. I also understand, like, look, when it first comes out, if it's good, yeah, it's probably is going to be high rarity and incredibly expensive, sort of fair enough, but the card's been around for a few years now. With any other, like, competitively relevant card that's been around for as long or sometimes or longer than this card has had an easy to obtain reprint by this point, because the original print of it came out in 2018. We are now in 2021, so it's been around for about 3 years, but we still don't have like a common or really cheap reprint of this card. The best comparison is probably Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring because that also sees a lot of play and is very useful and very versatile. And that card, funnily enough, within just under 2 years of it being released, it was given a common reprint. Same with Pot of Desires, because when that first came out, that was really expensive and competitively relevant. Again, within about a couple of years of it being released, it got a common reprint. So this card's been around for a year longer than that, and it just doesn't have that. So, it does make you wonder, are Konami just sort of hogging this card for the fun of it, or is there maybe an intention to give us a common reprint further down the line to also make it easy to obtain? I think that will happen eventually, but I do think Konami have taken their sweet time on it. And while I understand they want to use it to sell sets, the thing is, there's other good and relevant cards that they could use to sell sets now. They don't need to just keep using this as the cash cow to sell everything. There's things like Access Code Talk as one example. Another example would be Lightning Storm. Those are very desirable cards as well, and they're very expensive at the moment. And you could definitely use cards like that to sell sets. But I have no influence on Konami, so it is really their decision. But I do feel by this point it should have had at least one print that's quite easy to obtain, just to sort of make things fairer. But then again, Yu-Gi-Oh's probably never been totally fair. But yeah, this card is very good, very versatile, but I feel it is a bit expensive for what it should be. It should have had at least one print. It's a bit easier to get. And I would like to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. That's just my thoughts and opinions on this card. In summary, very good, very versatile, but maybe a little pricey for what it is. If you've got an opinion on this, leave a comment down below. And if you like the video, leave us a like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.